Hey, hey. Welcome to another episode of This Shit's Hard podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Biscuiti.
And I'm Jen, aka Rumblebum. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Well, let's get into it and talk about the sex.
Okay, let's
The
talk
sex and the vaginas.
about the vaginas and the sex and everything in between.
Oh my goodness. We are so excited to have Amalia. Thank you for being here. I'm going to hug you on the couch.
We're really close, so we're going to just talk this way. We're going to talk at each other's faces in this direction.
Amalia is so talented. Rumble has had an opportunity to meet her and spend time with her when we did a breath work.
Oh yeah, the full moon ritual with
that was
some
amazing.
breathwork, yeah,
yes,
some crystal bowls, yeah, with Amanda Mossing. She's great.
She's great.
Yeah.
So we are sitting in South Florida at actually one of Amalia's clients' homes. So thank you for that.
Thanks, client.
Thanks,
Shall
client.
remain nameless.
She is all things wellness, but specifically for women's health, which I really appreciate. We've been, as you know, which is why you reached out, we started a sex series. And we're going to talk today. Well, Amalia is going to school us today.
Yes.
We're going to have a collaborative conversation.
Great. And if we can do anything, like any tips and tricks,
yes.
Experiential.
Yes, 100%.
I have one person who's very individually who's excited about this.
Who also shall remain nameless?
No, we talk about him in every episode. He's very excited about this episode.
Okay.
So we are talking today about how breath work affects and can impact and improve your sex life.
Yes. And not just breath work, but just how you breathe, which, unconscious versus conscious, so obviously breath work can help inform how you breathe unconsciously, but understanding breath, just the structures of breath and how that affects you physiologically is a huge part of being able to have an orgasm, because you may not know this, but the breath and the air pressure is meant to affect and travel down to the pelvic floor on every single breath. And for most of us, that is interrupted somewhere along the way. And
yeah, because half of us are holding our breath all day.
Yeah.
Holding our breath, holding our abdominals in, having a posture that somehow interrupts the structures that are meant to expand and contract in breath. And being that the pelvic floor is at the bottom of that chain, it gets, a lot of kind of abuse and neglect. And so, but the pelvic floor and the breath are meant to be working together every single time. This is the diaphragm, this is the pelvic floor, and they're meant to be doing this and this on every inhale and exhale. So if we, tighten our abs because we're trying to look skinny all day,
Which is most women, though. Most women.
I do it all the time unconsciously because I've been doing it since I was a tiny.
Yeah, it's
so
unconscious.
Literally, I say this a lot. So if you know me, you've heard it before. But I have noticed that I am alone in a baggy T-shirt holding my abdominals tight because.
Oh, for sure.
What if somebody sees my mom pooch or my relaxed belly, whatever, so
we do it. What you're saying is we do it subconsciously without even thinking about it.
And
really.
Pelvic floor tightness comes from a lot of other kinds of patterns like that. So, we could be standing in a way that is like just a tiny little degree off from, I'm not trying to make people obsessed, but, we have compensatory patterns. So we create some kind of discomfort, some kind of trauma. It could be birth trauma. It could, and I don't mean like you had birth trauma and your birth was terrible, but I'm talking about birth being traumatic to the body, right? So it's an injury, that we should respect and heal from. But sometimes we don't because we're really worried about like getting back into the pre-mom genes, or
we see a lot of that in the fitness world. Sorry to cut you off, but I don't know if you knew this, but Jen, aka Rumble, was also postpartum coach.
Yes, I did.
So a lot of people slide into her DMs asking her questions about like how soon is too soon, how much time, and we especially in the CrossFit space, we're seeing a lot of women who questionably return a little too early to the sport. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Because I'm all about like, I love fitness. We all do CrossFit and things like that.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
So it's no disrespect to wanting that urge. So some people do it for the aesthetics. Some people do it because their mental health relies on it.
Yes.
And so, but what I'm saying is that even if you don't feel injured today, I work with women in their 60s and 70s who are still working with their birth injuries because they never healed and their bodies have compensatory patterns around those injuries, and it can be pain in the hips and the back. It can be pelvic floor issues, incontinence. And of course, all of this goes to having a good time when you're trying to have a good time, or not. Having a lot of like thoughts and internal dialogue about, is this position going to be okay? Is there going to, whatever. Am I, okay? And also, can I enjoy it? Can I relax? Can I receive? Can I soften? Because as women, physiologically, we are receptive. And if we can't be in receptive mode, which has to do with breath, mindset, tissue, all of the above, it's just a layered, conversation, then we can't really achieve that softness that it requires to receive pleasure. And I'm not just talking about orgasm, but orgasm is a very, it's like a muscle spasm, right? It's the pelvic floor doing la, la, la. So if it's not singing, right?
I love that.
So those muscles, like, okay, this is like a gross kind of like comparison. It's not super literal, but this is the arm, right? This is the strong arm, but like if it never does this, then it's not a strong arm. It's a flexed muscle, but it's a tight and shortened muscle, right? So it's not strong. A strong arm does this. And a strong pelvic floor stretches and relaxes and then lifts and engages. And so we, if we are in tight posture, if we're in a breath pattern that doesn't do the thing, then the pelvic floor can't do the thing when it's, when you're wanting to receive that pleasure. And we just digress so much that I don't even know where we started.
No, this is every day. Me and Rumble's conversation are like this.
Yeah. That's just the normal course of conversation.
But it's interesting too, because even, we were talking about yoga clothes,
right?
Leggings, specifically what we're talking about. And Amalia made the comment that I said, "Oh, I really like these." She's like, "Oh, these are my softer, looser ones because the trend right now is the compression." And why is it the trend for compression? Because it's a silhouette that the feminine body is
meant to be like a certain way. Is
craving to show the world. When really I've learned this from you over talking over time, but really we were meant to be the most relaxed in the relaxed state. And that's where we're in our most powerful position.
Yeah. I mean, we teach people, what does relaxed breathing feel like and what does engaged breathing feel like? Like you're not meant to breathe the same way in a plank as you are sitting here talking. But we should know the difference because we are unconsciously, not doing either well, most of us, because again, muscles are strong when they're dynamic. So that means they have to know what the soft yielding feels like, and they have to know what the proper engagement feels like. The other thing is that people are like, "Oh, I have a strong pelvic floor. I do 100 Kegels a day." Stop it right now. Stop. That's me telling you to stop. Public service announcement.
Also guilty. Did that like 5 years ago.
I mean, right.
But we also squat. So is that different?
Yeah. So squatting lengthens the pelvic floor, and it's also part of the recoil back up. So yes, but intention is so much, right? So pelvic floor is subtle and breath is subtle. And our ability to tune into subtlety is crap because our world is not subtle at all. We are at a 10 all the time. La, 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 craziness. And then we're supposed to be in subtle sensation when we are having sex or when we're meditating, which is very similar because it's one pointed focus. So how hard is it at first to just turn off the noise and focus on our body? Well, if we can't do it, while we're breathing or while we're feeling our body in movement, then it's harder to do it also in sex. But we need to be able to feel like my pelvic floor is tight. Most people don't even know where their pelvic floor is. Just so you know, your pelvic floor is the little trampoline of muscles that hold your organs up and in your body. And if it's not working right, they may eventually fail at that job. And they're just the small muscles that attach from the pubic bone to the tailbone and the sits bones.
And when you say they might fail at that job, what does that look like?
That's called organ prolapse, and it can be varying degrees. So I don't want to be like fear mongering. You are not going to sit on the toilet and lose your uterus and collapse. Okay? Because I've had people be like, "Oh my God, seriously? Like, what is that?" And
good morning, everyone.
Yeah, it has to do with, I think, too, like women who like pee and they think it's normal,
Right. It's not. It's common,
normal.
but not normal. And it doesn't matter if you've had a baby or you're a certain age.
Right.
That is not an inevitability. That is a dysfunction, and it is often a breath dysfunction. You can often cure that with proper intentional breathing. Yes, also exercises, understanding what true like pelvic floor engagement feels like, which I would like to share with you. I'm sure Rumble already knows, but like, since we're on the subject,
let's talk about it.
Yeah, sure. This is my best way of describing it in a quick, like a quick comparison. A Kegel, if you do a Kegel right now, I like all our listeners and men too, if you're there, because this applies to you too. So it's the stop flow of urine feeling, and it feels like if this is the vaginal opening, the muscles kind of feel like a clamp, a closing, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now I also want you to just, while you're holding that connection, notice the muscles in your lower abdominals between your hip bones. And now release. Okay, usually there's some relationship there. There ought to be. But now, instead of the clamp, do a lift. So men, you lift your junk. And women, you imagine there's just like a cotton ball that you're trying to grab with your vaginal opening and lift it up. Not death grip, not try to squeeze the life out of it, but just lift it up to the center of your body. And now feel those muscles again between the hip bones and the pubic bone. Most people are like, wow, that's very different, because the pelvic floor innervates with the lower transverse abdominis. And if you engage it properly, you get response in these lower abdominal muscles that are hard to get going properly. And those muscles, support our pelvis and our lower back and help prevent hip pain and stuff. And it's such a big muscle that we can get all this working around the transverse abdominis, and this lower abdominal area is asleep. It's because it needs proper pelvic floor engagement in order for it to really be like, okay, I'm firing, I'm on. And these muscles are important for plank, and they're important for breath, and they're important for energy work, and they're important for sexy time. They're also important to keep your organs up and in. So a lot of people don't know that when, they start to feel like a heaviness or like almost like an obstruction. I've had some women tell me like, it feels like I have like a tampon in, but it's not, there's nothing in. These are signs that your body is telling you, and it is maybe subtle, it's discomfort, but we are just waiting to get hit over the head before we do anything about our bodies, right? Like, we're just not used to, unless we're like limping or, bleeding, we're just doing life, because I have a schedule. And the schedule
is most guilty of that.
Right. The thing is
so
like,
bad.
That's why the body, it's like, it's a cliche by now, but if you don't listen when it speaks, it will begin to scream, whether it is, whatever it is in your life. So learn to listen when it speaks, learn to listen, hear the language. And the language is subtlety. The language is like, like sex feels a little different. Or every once in a while when I'm sneezing like 5 times, on the 5th time, I have a little stress incontinence, or wow, my urge to pee has changed over the years. That feeling of urgency has changed. Obviously regular hip and lower back pain, but maybe it's manageable. Maybe you attribute it to how you sit, how you sleep, how you walk or run. Most likely there is a breath component. And also I think most of us, kind of notice different arcs with our ability to receive pleasure, how sex feels, different positions feel different. These are all indications that we need to be looking at how the pelvic floor is doing. And it is not the same as when we pull a hammy, or, so it doesn't yell at you the same way. You need to be in tune with, like, what are the subtle sensations that are telling you we're not at our best right now, because again, it will just keep getting worse if you don't give it some attention. And one of the best ways to do that is to be in the subtle awareness. So breath is really good for that. And B, breathe mindfully, properly. And there's many different ways to do that, but we can go over 1 or 2 today as well.
We want tangibles today.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Tangibles for sex.
Thank you.
What's that, hun?
I said we want tangibles for sex.
Yes.
Yes.
We do. So, okay, so should we do some things like that? Okay.
I wore my comfy clothes.
I did too.
Yes.
First of all, going back
I
to
wore
the
my
clothes.
bodysuit.
Exactly. A sports bra is good for when your boobs are shaking around because you're box jumping. It's not good otherwise. So stop wearing a sports bra every day, all day, because our rib cage is meant to expand and contract in a 360-degree unobstructed. Like, I used to be uncomfortable about wearing this shirt without a bra, but I was like, no, it's better for my body. And if you have a problem seeing half my boobies, then just turn the other way, because this is real life. We're changing the paradigm.
She's
here.
like, I'm out here breathing.
Right. I'm breathing.
Okay?
I get to breathe. I get to breathe, and it's okay if you're not comfortable, because you will become comfortable the more you see me relaxing my stomach and letting my breasts be in their normal state. Because if you do it and I do it and we all do it, and we know, like, when we want to look fierce and we got the boobies up and the tight whatever on, I'm not against that. Like, I got the makeup on or whatever. It's a special occasion. I put my strong lips on for.
Do you appreciate your lips?
I did it just.
We appreciate. Yes.
Never ever.
Thank you for that.
So I'm just talking about daily life, grocery shopping, and sitting at home or whatever. Just notice that we are wearing restrictive clothing, and it is not good for our breath. And when it's not good for our breath, it's not good for our sex. And really, sex is so important, not just for sex, right? It's our ability to receive, our ability to open up. So our ability to get pleasure is our ability to get money, get compliments, get recognition, get love, get energy from the universe. It's a receiving divine feminine energy that is maybe not a super, maybe not everyone relates to that, but there is a softness and a vulnerability that is required to receive. It's not all about getting. That's hyper masculine. It's over yang, right? And part of the reason why we're tight in the belly and tight in the pelvic floor is because we are energetically tight and in an inability to receive. That was a little tongue twister. Okay.
I'm over here getting real comfortable. I can't wait for this. This first tangible.
Right.
Yes.
First tangible is understanding what a relaxed breath is meant to feel like, because that is where we need to start. We need to be able to relax. So we also need to be able to relax when somebody is, right? Same idea.
She just touched my leg and went like this. You can't see it, but
you can you're getting the vibes.
It felt really nice.
Right?
Yes.
I was seeing if she was in a receptive mode, and she was. Okay. So are we actually doing it? Am I guiding the breath right now?
Do you want to do this with us?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, sure. All right. So you can open your eyes anytime you need to see a visual, but mostly this is a closed eyes experience because it's about sensation. So eyes closed, jaw soft. You are noticing the pathway of air coming in through the nose. And just notice the nose, the back of the throat, and the jaw soft. That first pathway for air is open, receptive, yielding. Sometimes you might notice tension around the throat, tension in the jaw, even maybe tension around the eyes, sinuses, all of that open. And then as the air travels down, going into the lungs are protected by the rib cage, right? So it needs to expand and contract 360. So as you notice the breath, you might notice it's a lot easier to breathe forward or up into the chest, but maybe you're not feeling lateral expansion. Maybe you're not feeling any messages in the back body, in the back ribs. See if you can shift your posture, your awareness into feeling the back and sides and front expanding evenly like a cylinder, expanding and contracting. And so all of this is happening really via the diaphragm, which is this umbrella muscle right at your solar plexus. And on the inhales, the umbrella muscle stretches down, and it's like a syringe. It pulls the air into the lungs. So you can imagine the muscle stretching down and it pulling air into the lungs, and then the muscle relaxing up. It's not a force. It's its natural relaxed dome position in the up. And then the inhale is the stretch. And then the exhale is the relax up. And you want to notice that diaphragm because it's mirroring what we eventually want the pelvic floor to also be doing. So now we've got relaxed face, all the tissue around the rib cage, and awareness around the diaphragm. If the diaphragm is stretching down and the lungs are expanding, that means the organs are displaced and the belly also expands. The lower back also expands. So if you need to change your posture or adjust your awareness mentally, see if you can find some shape change, some sensation shift through inhale and exhale in the lower back, not just the belly, but also notice the belly soft. That thoracolumbar fascia also needs this expansion and contraction every breath. The whole body does, the organs, the digestive system. And now if we let the belly soft and the back soft, the inhales go all the way down to the pelvic floor. So as you inhale, feel that blooming in your lady parts. And then exhale without effort. Just notice there's a little hug and lift. Try not to increase it. Just watch it. Inhale, everything expands and blooms, top to bottom, all the way down to pelvic floor. And exhale, there's a natural, subtle hug and lift. Inhaling, the bones attached to the pelvic floor are expanding away from one another. And exhale, they come just a little closer together. So you could go on for a little while trying to feel all of that stuff, but the relationship of how we're holding our body and tension in our belly, when you really feel the sensation all the way down to the lady parts, you know that it's different than you usually breathe. And that means that you're usually holding some tension along the way to prevent that, because the pelvis, the lower back, the pelvic floor, all are meant to expand and contract on every breath. Thoracic spine also, I mean, this is why people are really locked up in the back and the mid back a lot of time, because we're kind of lifting our ribs and showing our boobies and tightening our bellies, and then we can't breathe into our back. Well, then that also disconnects the core and that message sent down to the pelvic floor. So how we stand, how we think, basically, how we think about our bodies is translating to our pelvic floor, because if we're so worried about our externals that we're not tuned into our internals, then we are sacrificing ourselves and our health and our orgasms for the appearance of a narrower waist and more lifted boobies. And you got to make your choices in life. And
wow. I feel so relaxed, by the way. I don't know how you feel, but I was like, we could also just have a nap, a real quick nap.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's amazing, right? And it's like, because this also relates to your nervous system so much, and we are just not in that parasympathetic mode very much. And as soon as you thought about your breath and your body for a couple minutes, and you feel the whole rush go through your body, the surface of your skin feels different. The, rev of the engine starts to downshift, all of that just in a couple, in a minute. And if we do that, the parasympathetic is the rest and digest mode. It's also called the feed and breed mode, because that is where we need to be in a receptive sexual nervous system state. Like, we can't be in sympathetic and also be having great orgasms, because we're multitasking and we're in our head and not our body and all that stuff. So breath helps you get into the parasympathetic state, and parasympathetic is where you receive the goods, right?
So is this something that we should be doing before, like, say you're about to have sexy time?
I do.
You know that you're having sexy time.
Yeah.
Stop before sexy time and do this breathing, and maybe do it with your partner.
It depends, yeah. Or you can do it maybe before you even feel receptive enough to do that with your partner and receive their energy. You might need to take a moment alone. Maybe they're in the shower, you are. Or maybe, you're, just whatever it is, you might need time to tune into yourself before you want to have that other energy on your body or near your body. And then you don't have to go through that kind of like rigid, uncomfortable phase that sometimes happens in the beginning of foreplay, where it's supposed to be like, men shift differently, and we know that, and no disrespect, we're different animals, and they are inherently the givers and we are the receivers. Not to say that isn't meant to be reciprocal on other levels, but energetically we really need to shift into receiving, which means we really need to shift into parasympathetic. And so using breath, focusing that breath down into the lady parts, feeling them open and expand. If possible, allowing light onto that area, like sunlight, be naked, lay in the bed, I'm telling you, it's real.
So all those things that we were seeing on Instagram when people were like showing their parts to the sun.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
No
That
way.
is a real thing. That
Oh
is
my
a real
gosh.
thing. So
what does that do? I'm so intrigued right now.
Okay, well, first of all, we cannot slice our bodies into, this is my emotional body, this is my, right, this is my arm, it has nothing to do with my leg. We know the difference. We know that's not true, right? A pattern in the arm affects how we walk, vice versa. So a pattern in the mind affects how we physically manifest, right? Just like we were talking about before. We're insecure, so we're holding a posture. That posture affects us physiologically. So when we have shame around this area of our body, we have a harder time, again, receiving, softening. So I always go back to these ideas. First of all, it's where the sun don't shine for a reason, right? It's not acceptable. So, right? So then it's shamey. Ladies don't have thick red blood coming out between their legs. They have clear blue liquid. See how this pad absorbs this clear blue liquid?
Oh, right.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Everything is so
really
sanitized, so whitewashed. And so we learn from very, very early that this is an area of the body, the functions of the body, all of that is secret, it's shameful, and then we're only allowed to share it with maybe these few select people. Well, that doesn't work very well energetically. So if we start to send messages regularly with the breath, with our behavior, with our mindset, that say this is a beautiful, receptive part of our body where our creative energy lies, this is also related to the Tao. Have you ever heard of Taoist or Taoist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I studied that philosophy through, it could be super deep. I'm not a scholar.
Just a quick time out and note for future, we're having you back for another episode, and we can talk philosophy and all of the things that are more scientific. But I love this as our first one.
I love it too.
Thank you. But I love this as our first one because we're getting tangible tips that we can do.
Right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So anyway, I brought the Taoist up because they say that this is our creative center, and it makes sense because this is where we create life. And I won't go into it any deeper, but having more reverence for it, having more awareness and appreciation. It can't just be the thing that pees and poops for you, and then all of a sudden you want it to do magic. It's no, it's magic all the time. Have some respect. It is magic. So let the light shine.
Have some respect.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so true. It really is. Our whole vehicle is magical, and we are really tuned out a lot of its magic. And then, sometimes we get whispers of it when we are in this beautiful state of sexual, contact with ourselves or somebody else. But it's because we are transcending all of the stuff that we're taught, right? We must transcend it. So the more that we can do that about our bodies, and again, breath is a huge way of doing that, feeling subtlety, feeling sensation, subtle sensation, appreciating, noticing all the things it's tied to. All of that goes back to being able to lay down, feel, receive, and then boom, eventually.
And then boom.
And then boom shakalaka.
And then boom.
I love that.
Yes. So, that I would say those, the anatomical breath work where you're just kind of noticing that whole pathway from nose to pelvic floor, there is a relationship. And then that Kegel lift up and in, hold, feel the sparkle, let it be a little sexy. It's not just an athletic sensation. It is a sparkly, yummy sensation. You should feel that. They overlap. They are not mutually exclusive. Sex overlaps in a lot of different areas of our life, and it doesn't have to be in this box. It doesn't have to be only now, right? I can feel a little turned on right here, right now, talking to you guys, and I don't have to feel any shame or any weirdness or feel inappropriate whatsoever, because sex is a part of life. And when my 3-year-old asked me this morning about the turtles and the turtles putting the eggs, and why does the boys do it, or why don't the boys do it, and what is sex or whatever, I'm going to tell him legit. The penis goes in the vagina, okay? And it feels good, and there's love there, and that's why we're meant to, that's why we want to do it, because our spirit and our bodies tell us to do it. And that is information for a 3-year-old, not just, when you lose your virginity or whatever, because most of us didn't even know, anything about sex when we started seeing sex on porn or seeing sex or having sex. We knew nothing. I mean, I was scared the first time I saw a penis. What?
Sure. Well, yeah, everyone knows I grew up in the church, so that explains everything.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And even people who didn't grow up in the church, they grew up in the church because those puritanical values run through our society.
Yeah, they do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Adam and Eve is all we need to talk about, because once you believe that women were the downfall of society, or of the human race, of our connection to God and the Garden of Eden, then, you know, there's a little bit of a push-pull relationship with your femininity, with your sexuality, because we you know, we have this kind of snake in the garden vibe in culture. And yeah, it teaches us to lock up this area. And then we don't realize it, because what do we have to compare it to? You know, we only have our experiences, our own body to compare it to. But I'm hoping that then we've had like, oh, okay, we grew up. We had some good lovers. We had some awareness about less shame, more appreciation for our bodies. And we watched it open up, and let that just be an indicator of what more there is, because that is not the end of the road. You didn't just go from A to B and then stop. Like that was A, B, and you got Z. You got all the way down the road to go. There's more. There's more to be had as far as that pleasure and appreciation for the body.
So people, for our listeners, and you can actually watch this, is why we're doing the video, for our watchers, our audience, what's like a really good place to start when you want to like get more connected to yourself? And this is a question for both men and women. Do you have like a certain protocol, or is it very specific to the type of person that you are, or in where you're in life?
Both, but I would say that, you know, there are some really basics that everyone could benefit from, like no matter where you are on that A to Z journey. And, you know, we just went over two things: the pelvic floor engagement and what that feels like to truly not clamp down and tighten, but lift and feel the sparkle. And there is a difference. I think most of us just feel it the first time you try. But keep going into that sensation, because there is more differences to be felt in the Tao. Again, you can engage the pelvic floor in like 90 million different ways. You can feel the front of the vaginal opening, the back of the vaginal opening, the left side, the right side, the rectum, and that's all true. You can change all of that. So get more in touch with the subtleties of that structure. Get more in touch with your breath, and have a non-goal oriented physical practice. That is huge.
That's so important. And sorry to interject, but please. I think we talked about a couple of books that I'm reading. Well, first I wanted to take it back to all of the signs that you're talking about when your body will tell you. A great book with that is The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes, love that book.
So add that to your reading list. But regarding not having a goal-oriented sexual experience, this is in the book that I'm reading, Slow Sex.
Right.
Thank you, Con Porter, for putting that on your Instagram account, because I basically bought all the books that you listed that day. But it's true, because, and I think particularly this really impacts men, because there's so much performance pressure, and it really takes like the enjoyment out of the experience when both parties are like, for both. Right. So I really love that you said, like, just see what happens. Just enjoy the fact that you are together with this person and sharing this like energy and experience, and don't really have a goal, right?
Right. Well, that's kind of the foundation of Tantra, right? Is, you know, it's slow and it's experiential, and it's supposed to be juicy. Just this, just the touch, just the fingertips, just the subtlety. And if you enjoy the stages, then when you are perhaps going to orgasm, whether you are or not, that is also much more gratifying. But I am very down with the non-goal oriented sex, whether that is even for yourself, like self-pleasure, or with partner or partners, but also have a non-goal oriented physical practice that is not about sex, meaning freeform dance, tai chi, qigong, yin yoga, breath work, things where you are feeling your body for the sake of feeling your body. You are not trying to lift more. You're not trying to run faster. You're not trying to bend deeper. You are trying to simply feel your body, because it is a portal for all of what we're discussing right now. It is appreciating your body as an antenna, an energy and giving and receiving machine, versus a performance exterior kind of orientation on the body. And if we can do it in this non-goal oriented practice where you're just dancing, right? You're not dancing like someone's watching. You're just dancing like that guy, that, you know, the dealership guy.
Yeah.
Dance like that guy.
Oh no, we just did, because we were just at the John Summit concert in Red Rocks.
Oh, Red Rocks, yes.
This one got 34,000 steps in 2 hours. Every time I turned around to look at her, she's like this.
Dancing is freedom for me.
It's freedom, right? But it also can be really self-aware performance.
Yes.
So we have to, you know, yin yoga should be a non-performance based practice, but some people are still so worried about, they're in there for their mobility. They want to get deeper. They want, and it's like, so,
which is our mindset. Probably me and Nicole's more of our mindset, which I've been told many times to try to get out of, is that when you're a quote unquote athlete and you have that like athlete mindset, everything is done for something else. Like yoga is done for mobility, not to feel your body.
Right.
Etc.
If you do things for mobility, I do like vinyasa where I am trying to get deeper, balance longer, do things that are more challenging. I am an athlete too. I'm still, like whether it's CrossFit or yoga, I can apply that mindset, right? Mm-hmm. But I have the other piece of myself that is, and where you titrate that edge of what is this edge of discomfort. And there are people who want to go way past it. They need a 10 to feel like they're doing anything good. Well, how does that apply to your life? Because do you need to feel a lot of discomfort before you're really thinking and perceiving yourself as successful, productive? And then do you have the people who are like, I can't do that. I can't get into that position because in 1998, I had this surgery and my doctor told me not to do X. So I won't explore. I won't be curious. I won't trust my body. I just won't go there. So you have those, and then those people also operate in life that way. So it's like when you're in this non-goal oriented practice, you can see, where is my very gratifying, delicious edge of vulnerability? And if I can find that place where I am right at the edge of like, ooh, this feels a little spicy, but still really nice, and I can relax. I'm not grinning and bearing it. I am softening into it, and it feels like a yes in my body. Then you take that energy to sex. Then you take that energy to how you schedule yourself, how you make your money, how you manage your relationships. This is an energy that you're really getting to know yourself and using your body as a pathway for understanding your psyche and how you approach things. And that's why it has so much wisdom to give you if you're not in there trying to make it do things for you and perform for you. It's not your little dancing monkey. Your body has a lot to offer. And so like, yes, make it do things. It's fun. It's your vehicle for fun. But also listen to it because it's also a very wise thing that has a lot to show you. And it can show you where your mindset is and how you treat yourself and how that might show up in other places.
That makes so much sense. It really does. Thank you. We have so many different places we can go, but we're trying, we do this thing where we try to keep our podcast not the Joe Rogan length.
Right.
3 hours.
Yes. 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
Yes, I'm with that.
So we had a couple of questions that we wanted to ask you. Okay. And this one's super basic, but we ask all of our guests to share with us your morning routine because I know that you have one.
I really
Even though
don't.
Oh.
I don't. And I know
Is this because ever since you had a
child.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wake up with him because I wake up with him whenever he wakes up. And he, so if I wake up with him at 3 o'clock and whatever, it's like, I'm going to sleep when he sleeps so that I can have energy. When I wake up, I do have a morning routine. I wake up, I make I make breakfast and lunch. And that's my morning routine. I am in mom and wife mode, but it is therapeutic or, cooking, I believe it can be like one of those things like gardening or whatever, where you're on a more base level with your mind and you're doing something with your hands and doing something with the earth. And it's the way I show love and take care of my family. So for me, it is a morning routine, but it's not the thing that I used to do where I lit a candle and journaled and breathed, shower and scrub my body with coffee grounds. And like, I did all the things, girls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Single ladies, we can do, and then we can do that.
Yes. Okay. That is amazing. Save your old coffee grounds, rub them on your skin, have a moment of breath and like cleansing because it is, and then feel when you rinse it off, your skin will feel like you have nothing on the market does this. And it's old coffee grounds that would go in your garbage. So
tomorrow's shower is gonna be real
I am so real. I like literally text me when you do it because you're
you're
gonna be like, yes, this is different. My skin feels different than ever.
Me cutting open my Nespresso pods.
100%. You can still recycle what's left and just take the grounds out.
Yeah. This is what you have to do.
Yeah.
You do what you have to do.
Okay. And report back. She wants to know.
Because I really do. So, I had a regular practice of listening, whatever that looks like for you. I love that. But, you know, now again, and life keeps shifting. So the only constant is change. And Chase and I, my husband and I, like, kind of joke, but also 100% serious, fantasize about our retired life. That's going to look a lot like our life did when we first were together, and we did things together, and we, you know, that was the focus. You know, we'll drive around the country in our, you know, sleepy van and, you know, be dirty and sexy together.
I love that.
So
also, congratulations to you, because she has a relocation coming up.
Yes, 2 weeks.
Yes.
Mexico, Southern Baja. And it is, it's going to be the reason why I'm doing it, if in a nutshell, is what we've been talking about. Being able to just listen more, be connected to the earth more, not be at such a pace, not be in so many lights and concrete and sounds and you know, Bentleys.
Stimulus.
I just don't need all of that.
She says Bentleys.
There's too many Bentleys in South Florida. It's not a real thing.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
I don't want my kid growing up to be like, this is totally normal. When do I get my Bentley?
Bentleys, G-Wagons.
Pardon?
I said Bentleys, G-Wagons.
Yeah,
Mercedes.
you know, every place has money and they show it differently. And here it's really upfront. And I am about money because, again, I am about receiving. But I want to do it with integrity, and I want to express it with integrity. And there is a limit to how much of that expression feels like really satisfying for me, like on the base level, right? And that's how I want to spend it, and it's how I want to make it where it feels really good and all in the deep parts of me.
I love that.
And so, so we're going there so that I can, you know, be able to have my feet in the dirt and walk from my house to the ocean, and, you know, just grow my own food.
Good.
And so yes, we have discussed having a wellness trip there.
100%.
So. Yes, absolutely.
Super host. Yes.
The springs there. Oh, the springs are amazing.
We're ready to go.
The food is amazing.
We're ready.
Amazing.
That's all I have to say. Baja, Mexico. Yeah. You don't have to convince anybody. We're there.
Okay, yes. And then we'll also do.
We're like, yes. We already said yes.
Yes.
And we'll do yin yoga and breathing and all this like sexy feminine work that I'm so into.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's please do that soon.
Okay, great. So
I can't wait. I have goosebumps. We're doing it soon.
Oh, I love that.
Spirit just told me, oh my God, it's happening right now.
Okay. Well, that's been formulated. So audience, as you're listening and getting excited, stay tuned for that, because yes, we will be bringing that back around for discussion.
I'm super excited about it.
Now, these are just silly, like rapid fire things that we ask, but we will say a phrase and you just tell us what is the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay. Sunglasses at night.
Too cool for school.
Ooh. Situationships.
I mean, not a fan, I guess. That's my, seems too superficial for me.
Her facial expression said all.
Yeah.
Meh. Meh.
That's how that's.
Meh. Okay.
Even though I don't pretend to know exactly what that means. I've heard it, and from my impression, I feel like I'm looking for more depth.
Yes, and actually, some of our guests that are on our dating series will agree. You know, there's a purpose for it for some people. But
exploration, legit. As long as that center is, you know, like, you know what you're doing and why. I thought that was what my husband was. I thought I was experimenting dating. I'd never dated anyone before him.
Okay.
I was like, I'm just going to practice by going out with this guy, because there's, you know, I'm not, you know, whatever. And cut to whatever, 8 years later, babies. And
she married him.
Right.
And
so as long as you have the real, why are you doing it clear, then yes. But yeah, if it's just to kind of like bump into each other like fruit flies, not a fan.
So situationships answer fruit flies.
Got it.
Just be real clear on what's going on inside, and almost everything flies. You know?
Okay, love that. International travel.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, I've been to a lot of places, but not nearly enough. But yes, paradigm shifts. And you wrote about that when you went to Egypt. It is very important to see the way other people live.
Yes.
When we were in Prague and people were drinking beer on the train on the way to work, and there was no stigma, I was like, yes, not because I need to drink beer on the way to work, but because stigma, because different way of life, because not an alcoholic, just a guy eating a bread and cheese sandwich with his morning beer. And like, you need to see differences in life to realize that there's not only one way to think or live. Yeah. So respect. Yeah. I like that. I like international travel very much for that reason.
We love that.
Yeah.
So Rumble doesn't ever remember our mantra, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
I remember the end.
Do you want to start with the end?
You know what? We're going to start with the end today.
Okay.
Rumble's going to start.
What's the end?
And we are smoke shows.
We are smoke shows?
Yes.
Yes, I love that.
We are also happy, healthy,
Wealthy.
Word to your mother.
And smoke shows.
Yeah.
And smoke shows.
Yes.
She remembered the important part.
She really did.
Yeah.
Wealthy and smoke shows.
That's it.
Happy, healthy, wealthy smoke shows.
Yes. And you are that. And what I love about our mantra and today's message is that it is all about receiving. I love how you tied receiving into not just, you know, a sexual activity or a thought, but also
energy.
Like, yes.
Energy, yeah.
How you receive other people's energy, how
love
you
from
receive
your girlfriends.
That's so important. Money. I love that you talked about money.
Yeah. It's the receptive energy.
Right.
Right. Yeah. We're taught that yang or masculine is what gets you things because it's doing. But if there's too much doing and not enough receptivity and vulnerability, you have a hard mountain to climb.
I think that's another topic that we need to talk about because I've been reading a lot about that energy and how most women these days are, probably also including myself, are operating more in masculine energy, especially if you're like a single mother, because like, you know, you don't have a choice, but like you have to do the things and make the money and, you know, raise your child. And I think that a lot of people don't have the knowledge or are confused about exactly like what that means, like having feminine and masculine and where you're operating from and how you're operating in that. So that's a whole nother subject.
Well, maybe that can be our next thing that we were talking about because that's where the philosophy sits right there. That's why I teach a lot of things, but yin yoga is like my heart because yin is the opposite of yang. Yin is the receiving energy. It's the, you know, it's the feeling and being versus the doing. And so again, that's why it shouldn't be goal oriented. And so, yes, I'm with that. We live in a yang masculine society, a patriarchy. So none of us know what, or really balance that energy well, masculine or feminine, or men or women. And so, yes, that's, I think, a very important piece that when you understand brings balance to your life, period. Like, you know, and to the world individually, if we are able to accomplish that, then we start to shift the whole, you know, larger paradigm.
I love that. And that is going to be our next interview with you.
Okay. I love that.
On behalf of Rumble and myself and the Shit's Hard podcast, we just want to say thank you so much for sharing today with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored.
Yes. Thank you. We'll be practicing breathing in vaginas.
Yes. Say vagina to people and then eventually they won't go, oh.
Right?
Yes.
And I still can't say vagina to you. Okay. But we're working on it.
We have a lot of work to do.
Vagina.
Think vagina when you are breathing. You actually honestly might find something very sparkly there.
Ooh, my favorite is that Rumble has her daughter in the other room. So I can't wait to see what she repeats in the car today. When you guys...
she already knows vagina. We don't we don't say fake words around here. So
I love that.
She says vagina, but she says vagina.
That's hilarious. Vagina.
Yeah.
My every time I sit on the toilet, my son is like, "Do you have your moon?" Which is what I call my period.
Oh, I love that.
He wants to know.
That's so funny.
He's curious. Kids are curious and they can handle all this. It's us that can't.
Yes.
They're fine. They're born without all the BS. So it's up to us to give it to them or not.
My gosh, I love that. Wow. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're going to stop on the record button right now. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. You will see and hear so much more from Amalia soon. Thank you.